Welcome. My name is Tony Russell, and in this module I will be discussing example approaches to help prioritize indications in the biopharmaceutical industry. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are solely mine and do not represent those of my current or previous employers. Prioritizing indications is one of the core responsibilities in new product planning. A common scenario is where the company has a therapeutic that can be used in multiple indications. This can arise from the R&D team developing a drug whose mechanism of action can address many potential diseases. Along with this are challenges. The company has limited resources and cannot pursue all of the available opportunities. And each disease option comes with significant benefits and risk. So the critical question that comes up in this scenario is, how do you sort out the options and prioritize where the company should apply its limited resources? The goal for prioritizing indications is to sort through all of the options to identify the lead indication that the team and companies will support for further development. The process starts with collecting all the concepts and ideas together. Then, an initial cut is made by throwing out options that have obvious limitations. A first pass evaluation is then made using secondary research such as syndicated market research reports, published literature, and available databases. With a handful of selected indications, it can be helpful to do a second pass evaluation using KOL calls or subject matter expert calls and qualitative market research such as in-depth interviews with practicing physicians. With the insights gained from the evaluation, the team can then prioritize the options to help identify a lead indication. With the overall goal in mind, we can now shift our focus to the evaluation team and process. The first step is to establish the composition of the evaluation team. It is critical to have cross-functional representation on the team and can include the following functions: commercial strategy, clinical development, regulatory, research, manufacturing and formulation, legal and intellectual property, and it can also be very important to have an executive sponsor of the team. The next step is to define the goals and evaluation parameters. Defining the goals up front is important in the prioritization process, as a goal will influence what will make one option more attractive than another. Some examples include maximizing revenue potential, fastest time to market, identifying a market that can be addressed by a small commercial organization, or simply generating proof of concept data for potential partnerships. Setting up the evaluation parameters is another important step in the process. These parameters can include preclinical in terms of availability and validity of animal models, clinical in terms of the potential pathway from a clinical development perspective, regulatory in terms of any precedence of regulatory approvals prior, and commercial, including epidemiology, unmet needs, and competitive pipeline. And of course, others can be included as needed. As with the goals, it is important to tailor the evaluation parameters to your specific needs. With the team goals and parameters in place, the initial review of options can take place. Having cross-functional examination and discussion is important to help identify any gaps in needed refinement. This iterative process can take a couple of cycles, with the output being an evaluation score by each function for the options, which we'll cover in depth on the next slide. When thinking about evaluating the different options against the established set of parameters, there are different approaches regarding scoring. One approach that is relatively easy to implement is a three-level scoring schema: high, medium, and low, or in the example shown here, favorable, neutral, and unfavorable. It is important to have an established set of scoring guidelines the team uses to ensure that there is consistency in the review of multiple indication options. An example scoring rubric is shown here as one potential approach. What is important, though, is to tailor the scoring rubric according to your specific organizational needs. When evaluating the different indications, it can help to have a template for the team to fill out. The template also provides guidance on the key attributes under consideration within each of the key parameters. The template also provides a central place to document the evaluation process, which will be helpful in situations where indications may be revisited in the future. An example template is shown here, and as mentioned before, it can be tailored to meet your specific needs. Once the team has finished evaluating the different indications and there's alignment on the functional area scores, it can be helpful to have an overall summary. One approach to help visualize the summary is a heat map as shown here. From this heat map, it can be relatively easy to identify indications to prioritize for further evaluation. And some indications can be put on hold for the time being. And some indications can be eliminated from the list. This illustrates how a team can narrow a large collection of potential options down to a manageable number of strong candidates. The simple heat map example shown on the previous slide can serve most purposes quite effectively. One limitation of the heat map approach is that all parameters are weighted equally. Here's an example using a weighted scoring approach. As with the scoring rubric shown earlier, it is important to align the team at the beginning of the process on how each parameter should be weighted. Once completed, the weighting scoring approach provides additional level of detail how the different indications sort out in terms of rank order. And this could be quite helpful in gaining team alignment on prioritization. As we wrap up this topic, I wanted to share a few key learnings. First, spend the time needed at the beginning with the evaluation team to align on the process and objectives of the exercise. Don't rush into the process without having everyone on board. As the commercial strategy lead, be prepared with substantial data to provide an objective view of the unmet need and market potential. Being data-driven will help build and establish credibility with the other functions. In the early stages of evaluation, adopt a mindset of seeking truth rather than seeking success. That is, do not focus on justifying all the options. It is important to kill weak ideas early and quickly. Don't be afraid to rank options low if they cannot be justified or supported. With limited resources, it's critical to focus on the strongest options. And lastly, document and preserve notes on all targets and indications evaluated. Be prepared for zombie projects to return to future rounds of evaluation. Invariably, deprioritized indications will be asked about in the future, and the documentation can help understand if new information justifies a reevaluation. I hope you found this module helpful. Please feel free to contact me via LinkedIn if you have any questions, and feel free to leave comments below. Thank you.